Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. Today we are continuing to look at the theaters versus streaming debate, and we are going to start off with this article here, why streaming movie numbers can't be converted for box office comparisons. Streaming movie performance is hard to compare to theatrical releases, especially since streaming views can't be converted to a box office equivalent. With the rise of streaming, it's not yet clear how the performance of streaming movies should be evaluated compared to the traditional theatrical releases, but simply multiplying the number of reported views by average ticket prices is a wildly inaccurate way of comparing streaming to box office. While it may seem like a quick and easy way to find out how much a streaming movie would have made if the same number of people had seen it in theaters, a variety of factors make the comparison wildly inaccurate, even as a rough ballpark estimate. Box office tracking is so central to the way people think about movies that it's become hard for anyone to talk about the quality of a movie without making its box office haul a major part of the conversation. Yes, because a good movie can be a box office bomb, and a shit movie like Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides can make over $1 billion. So since streaming movie views don't generate box office revenue, how can their performance be compared? Movies that don't get released theatrically have traditionally been looked down on as a lesser, but thanks to Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, HBO Max, and more streaming exclusive movies are better than ever, even garnering a significant portion of awards season nominations and a few trophies too. Yes, that used to be true about 20 years ago, is that if you made a direct-to-video movie, it was never taken seriously. It was basically like, this is going to be absolute garbage. The weird thing is box office never really had a proper place in that conversation for audiences in the first place. Sometimes it's helpful to use a movie's popularity as a way of inferring quality via social proof, but plenty of great movies flop at the box office and plenty of poorly reviewed movies bring in massive box office hauls. In some cases, such as Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, it's actually possible for $1 billion at the box office to be a letdown, while in others, $100 million can be a major hit. So how does that reconcile with streaming, where revenue can't be assigned to a specific movie at all? And here's the first point that this article makes here. Box office shouldn't matter to audiences. In an effort to understand the success or failure of a streaming release, it's not uncommon to see some simple box office math applied to estimate the popularity of a streaming movie, where the number of times the movie is repeatedly viewed is multiplied by the number of tickets sold, but the resulting number is absolutely useless. The biggest reason is that the purchase experience is entirely different. There's purchase friction. There's purchase friction for almost every single theatrical ticket sold because tickets need to be purchased, whereas on streaming, the cost is invisible and already incurred via an automatic monthly payment, meaning there's no direct cost to hitting the play button on a streaming movie versus far greater scrutiny over the decision to watch something on the big screen. And they do have a point here, is that. And another thing that they're not taking into consideration is how many people have access to that same account. So okay, you could watch that movie 2 or 3 times over the opening weekend, but 4 or 5 people have access to that Netflix, that Amazon Prime, Hulu, HBO Max account. So are you taking that into consideration for your guesstimate of what the box office will be? Probably not, because that's one of those unseen factors. There's also a variety of other costs and convenience factors for the big screen, such as travel time, cost of snacks, available showtime, potential childcare expenses, etc. The cost and convenience of seeing a movie in the theater is a drastically different experience than streaming a movie, where the hardest part is usually sorting through all the options, meaning it's likely only a percentage of the people who stream a movie would have paid for a ticket to see the same movie in the theaters. However, on the other hand, there's also a wider audience for theaters. Streaming releases are usually only available to the subscriber base of a given streaming platform, ranging from a few million to a few hundred million, as opposed to theatrical releases are open to anyone within travel distance of a movie theater, which could number in the billions depending how wide the release is. And this is the article's second and final point. I know it's a little shorter for the streaming versus theatrical debate, but we'll get to one that's a little longer here in the next video, and that is streaming movies never needed box office revenue. Calculating box office potential of streaming releases don't make much sense for audiences, but it can make even less sense for the streaming platforms themselves. The reason box office is counted for the theatrical releases is because it matters for theaters and studios and their stockholders how much a movie is bringing in, because ticket sales are often one of the primary sources of revenue for theatrical releases. However, theatrical releases and streaming use fundamentally different revenue models. So even if the view times ticket prices model has any semblance of accuracy, it's a completely arbitrary measurement of success for a movie designed to make money for a streaming service. It would be like calculating the potential ticket sales for a sporting event if the entire television audience were to purchase tickets. Obviously, not everyone watching can afford tickets or is passionate enough or lives in the right location to purchase tickets, but the broadcast audience for a sporting event is also already monetized through sponsorships and ad revenue and other means. Streamers like Netflix are going into billions of dollars in debt to produce a content library, including hundreds of millions spent on content like Adam Sandler movies, just to ensure there's a library of exclusive content for future audiences and to draw new subscribers of various demographics, even if it's not profitable immediately. Some of these movies aren't even designed to break even. They're just to fill out the catalog and attract a demographic. And that has actually been Netflix's biggest problem, is that they want to make content for everybody, to fill out every niche. But the problem is, over time, that's going to get insanely expensive. There's absolutely no value in trying to identify the box office potential of a movie that was designed to serve as a revenue model that doesn't depend on the box office anyway. When you look at it this way, its odd box office is so relied on as a metric in movie discussions in the first place, it's only an indicator of commercial success, and even then subject to multiple variables, such as budget and marketing. It's also entirely irrelevant when looking at streaming. In fact, without full transparency on viewership metrics from streaming platforms or any definition of what success means for a movie that draws revenue indirectly, regardless of how many times it's viewed, it's next to impossible for anyone under the streamers themselves to access the financial performance of streaming films, leaving audiences to focus on artistic merits, which could be for the best. Yes, and look at what happened with Six Underground. I think Netflix admitted it was one of their most streamed movies, but it wasn't quote-unquote successful enough to get a sequel. And I already did a video on that where we went in depth, so I'm not going to tread over old ground. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this video right here because I think I've gone on for as long as I need to go. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And if you guys have been following me long enough, you know I am terrible at ending these videos, so I will just see you guys next time.